All right. How far off did you guys get to yesterday? Were you able to go chapter 1 till 3?
Yes, group one did finish our chapter 3, and we was able to make the forms as well. But
Awesome.
practice-wise was not done, as we were not realize when we read through. I think it's okay. But the form, yeah, most of us did it. We're just gonna re-look at it right now because we were just sending each other across the individual forms just to look at. Yeah, but it was cool.
Okay, cool. And how about the rest of you guys? Rooms 2 and 3?
Yeah, for room we are with the 3 chapter 2, and we are doing Google form. But chapter 2 exercise we're not yet doing.
Okay, so you haven't done the chapter 2 exercise yet. Okay, cool. Okay, and how about room 3?
Room 3 we finish chapter 3 and we are not yet do assignment yet.
Okay, so you need to finish the assignment for that, yeah? Okay, I think we have maybe 2 more people that have logged in. Is there anyone here in the who hasn't heard their name being called out, guys?
Mình đã kể toàn lời chung mũi ấy.
Mấy nhưng tầm log inចូលមិញ
Okay,បងវណ្ណរដ្ឋទេ
បាទ
Okay, thank you បងវណ្ណរដ្ឋ
I think it was Rani. I saw Rani logging in later. Or was she there before?
I logged in and then my internet connection lost and now I log in again.
All right. Okay, cool. So we're giving a few more minutes. I don't know if, has anyone said, I remember Viesna mentioned something that he was going for a vaccine today. Do I remember that correctly?
It was a
Blood
blood
donation.
donation.
Blood donation, yeah.
He
that
will
was-
join us later.
Okay, cool. All right. So for those of you, I think Uj mentioned yesterday that at 1:30, so when we're coming back from lunch, we will have like a role play scenario. So we would do like a role play for you guys in terms of customer discovery session. And then we will discuss based on that. So we'll split you back in groups because it would be good to see what your takeaways are from that and kind of for you to see it modeled in real life to see how that would go. Yeah, just to kind of see how the conversation would happen in a real life scenario. Does that sound good?
Sounds lovely.
Okay. too much enthusiasm at the other end. Okay, guys, cool. So today we're going to focus on, so carry on for those of you who haven't finished the assignment. So just carry on with finishing those. And maybe for the rest of us, we can focus on chapters 4 and 5. So that for us to be the focus today and see how far we get with that. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
So, excuse me, Yoni, the exercise in chapter 1 and 2, we will do it later or we?
Yeah, so I think it would be good for us to do the modeling session for you, right? Before you go on to doing that, just to show you how a like a customer discovery session. I know you guys looked at some links that we've sent, and I saw that you sent one as well that you found in you thought it was useful, but we were thinking to do one like from our experience and how we would run it, just to show you guys like a real life scenario, and then we'll get you as well to have a go of that and see how, you know, to practice. Because if you don't do it, then you don't really, okay, yeah, you see other people doing it, but then it's also good for you to observe that first and kind of notice, because, you know, we have a set of questions, right? But what would happen in a conversation, you don't just, you don't look at the page and, okay, now let me stop you and ask you this question, right? The conversation happens naturally, and then maybe you ask one question, and then from there you ask a question that is not in the script, right? So we wanted to show you how that will go, and then it would be good to do that in your groups as well, just to kind of give you guys this sense of how it would work played in real life.
That would be awesome. And I also see your client discovery info sheets on the classroom. So
yeah,
that's nice. Okay.
Yeah, so it would be based on that. Yeah, so these are some tools that we use. So these are based on our interactions with clients and stuff. And we were thinking it would be good to show to you guys how that would go. And then you as observers will pick up on different points, right? So then, you know, maybe you ask a question, why did you say this, or why did you do that, and so on. And then have you guys role play as well, because I think that's very powerful to get you to practice as well. And you create the Google Forms and stuff, but it gives you a deeper understanding.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, no worries. So I think May is gonna split the rooms, and then I can be with you guys. I'll jump in and out of rooms just to join you for a bit and see if you have any extra questions. And then we will see you back at 1:30. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm starting to break out the room. So please join your room. And if anyone haven't get any invitation, please let me know.
May mà sao mấy nhung nơi room 2.
Okay, well, I move on to room 2. Okay, wait a minute. Let me stop the record.
We'll get. Thank you for recording, mate. Okay.
Yeah, so just so we have it.
Yeah, alrighty. So let me just open up the exercise in module 5. Okay, so as we discussed yesterday, this exercise is all about, or rather this kind of role play session is all about our client discovery session. And so as we mentioned yesterday, the client discovery session is a very important session because this is where you're going to capture information about your client, what their needs are, things like their budgets and their KPIs and everything else, all the information you will need in order to properly plan, create, execute, and then analyze the success of your campaigns. And so whilst we're doing this for a digital marketing purpose, a discovery session is actually something you should do at the start of any project. So even if it's not digital marketing, if it's something else to do in data, or even something unrelated with data, but a project that you are working on, understanding what the needs and objectives are and how you will measure success is a critical part of any successful project. And so take some of the thinkings and the methodologies that we will apply to this session and remember them more broadly as you work on other projects moving forwards. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do an exercise which has got 4 basic parts. Those parts are going to be, so first actually it'll be 5 parts, because the first part is Yoni and I doing a role play. And so what we will do is Yoni and I will kind of walk through an example of what a discovery session might look like. This probably wouldn't be a full discovery session, because we just want to give you a taste of what and how you might approach this. And then what we will do is May will break you off into smaller rooms, so probably 6 rooms, I think, May. And then within those rooms, I would like you to, between yourselves, split into 2 groups. So group 1 will play the role of the client, and group 2 will play the role of the marketing team. And so what I'd like you to do is, before you start that exercise, the client team, if you can agree between yourselves who you are as a company, and kind of just get yourselves familiar with more information about who that company is that you are going to play the role of. It will probably be easier for you to pick a company that everybody knows within that client team. And so this might be a brand that you are familiar with. It could be ABA Bank or Coca-Cola or Xander or any one of these, a company that you all know about, because that will help you in answering the questions that the marketing team might ask you. So once you've agreed and kind of decided on who that client company is, then you can start your exercise. And this is where the marketing team will start to ask the client team. So group 2 will start to ask group 1 questions to discover more information about that client. So these might be very simple things like, what the client's so you should already have their name, because before you do the session, remember, before we do a discovery session, we're going to go and do some research. And so in that research, we should already capture their name, their website. We should already have an email address of who we're talking to, because we've scheduled a meeting with them already. And so you might know the name of the person you're going to be meeting. So some of these basic things you should already have. And so you might want to start the conversation with asking them about the company, right? And so who's the company? What are they about? What is their background? And then we can move into more things like what they're trying to achieve, what some of their problems are, what some of their goals are. But before you start any conversation, it's always good to take a moment or two just to connect with the other human being. Right? And so Yoni, perhaps you can give us some advice on how you might start a conversation with somebody, just to kind of build more rapport and build more kind of connection before you start. Thank you. Before you start an actual call and kind of jump into the real questions and discovery. How might we build some rapport with people?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Very, very important. So we typically, if you think about it, even when you go and meet whoever you're going to meet, you're not going to straight away jump in and say, hi, I want you to talk to me about your business, right? You would go and just be like, hi, how are you? Maybe like if we're going in the morning, you can ask, how is this morning going? Or like whatever time of the day it is, like, kind of making that small, we call it small talk. You guys call it chit chat, I think, where you just go and talk a little bit about, how is everything going and so on and stuff. So just to kind of build that rapport with people. And this is, so we often say that when it comes to building relationships with customers, with clients, is the long-term game, right? If you think about it, even for you guys, when the ones who used to work as tour guides, at first you would start asking people, where are they from, how long they're in Cambodia for, and that sort of thing, right? Like, are they planning to go to, if they're in Siem Reap, are they planning to go to Phnom Penh? You're going to offer some suggestions and stuff. And likewise, the people who you've never met before, just I think the best way would be to approach it like how you would approach a friendly conversation when if you meet your friends as well, you don't just jump straight to the main topic. You ask them about their day and how they are and so on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think when we spoke about this yesterday, I think it was Ronnie or maybe somebody else was kind of mentioning it was a bit like when you go out on a date, for example, right? And so when you go and meet a stranger in a bar and you're trying to talk to them, you don't just start by, asking if they want to have your babies, right? You kind of ease your way into that conversation and you make small talk or chit chat, right? And so in a similar kind of way, we want to make sure that when we start a conversation, we do so with some of the small talk to build rapport. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so to run you through the rest of that kind of exercise, and then we can kind of break off, and you only can add any other parts you want to add. So part one is we're going to split into rooms. In each room is going to split into 2 groups. We're going to spend about 20 minutes doing a role play, right? So this is the marketing team asking the client team questions, the client team giving answers. The marketing team should be making notes of these answers, right? So as you ask a question, make sure you are making notes of what the question was and what the answers were that the client gave you back from those questions, because you'll use those answers later on. And so for 20 minutes, you can spend time kind of asking each other questions. In the real world, a discovery session might last an hour. It might last a little bit longer. And so when you are booking a discovery session call with a client, always book it for at least an hour so you have enough time to really get into the details. So after 20 minutes, you'll then pause and kind of stop the role play, and then you'll come together, group 1 and group 2, and you'll discuss how that role play went. So for example, group 2 might say, looking at my notes, I asked you this question, this is the response you gave me. So I'm going to understand that your problem is this. Is that what your problem actually was? So you can use that as a way to validate your problem. So if you remember, step 5 of our of our discovery session sections is to confirm with the client. And so we would normally do that via email or perhaps at the end of the session just to kind of wrap up. So we can practice the same thing here. Go back through your kind of answers and the questions you had and confirm them with the client to make sure you are all aligned. So have a discussion, talk about tips. This question didn't really make sense to me. So the client might say, you asked me this question, but I didn't like it or I didn't understand it. Or the marketing team might say, I didn't really get a good answer from this question. So exchange tips and ideas on different questions you could ask or how you might approach getting the same information in different ways. So compare your notes, and then we will switch teams. So group 1 now becomes the group 2, which was the marketing team. Group 2 becomes group 1, which is the client team. You can choose a different client or you can be the same client, it's up to you. And then we'll go again. And so the team that was the client now becomes the marketing team. The team that was the marketing team now becomes the client. And we'll do one more role play session. Yeah, Yoni?
Can I just ask, are you guys, do you understand what Uj means by this, or is it getting a little bit not so clear?
Maybe May can explain a little bit in Khmer,
Okay.
just to get a full understanding.
Okay, cool.
ចាហ្នឹងហើយអរគុណច្រើនអញ្ចឹងតកតងជាមួយនឹង role play របស់យើងបន្តទៅទៀតហ្នឹងគឺខ្ញុំនឹងបែងចែកអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាជា6ក្រុមហើយក្នុង6ក្រុមទូចៗហ្នឹងត្រូវបែងចែកជា2ក្រុមទៀតដែលមួយក្រុមគឺធ្វើជា digital marketing ដែលជា consultant ហើយមួយក្រុមទៀតគឺជាភ្ញៀវអញ្ចឹងនៅពេលដែលអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាដែលជា consultant ឬមួយក៏ digital marketing team ហ្នឹងយើង discovery question ជាមួយនឹង client ហ្នឹងប្រហែលសូម take note ទាំងអស់ហើយយើងធ្វើ role play ទៅវិញទៅមកអញ្ចឹងណាពេលយើងចាប់មួយសារហើយយើង change swap ទៅ another one វិញទៅជា team ផ្សេងមួយទៀតតែគាត់កាន់និយាយទៅមិនមាន2ក្រុមហីអញ្ចឹងយើងប្រូគ្នាម្នាក់ម្ដងក្នុងនោះទៀតហើយ session ហ្នឹងដូចជាមុនដំបូងដូចជាត្រូវការ20នាទីក្នុងការធ្វើ role play ហ្នឹង ហើយសម្រាប់ព័ត៌មានបន្ថែមអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាអាចមើល instruction នៅក្នុង chapter 2 អាហ្នឹងក៏យើងបាន mention បន្ថែមទៅក្នុង structure ហ្នឹងដែរប៉ុន្តែឥឡូវ get to clear មិនចាំតន់ទៅមើលនោះទេតែឥឡូវហ្នឹងអ្វីដែលខ្ញុំបញ្យល់មានយល់ឬមួយក៏មានអ្នកអត់តន់ច្បាស់អីអត់សូមសួរ
ចឹងបានន័យថា age group ត្រូវប្របែកជា2ទៀតមួយអ្នកសួរមួយអ្នកឆ្លើយ
ចាមួយជា marketing team មួយជា client team ហើយ discovery the question ហ្នឹងដែលយើងរៀនពីម្សិលមិញហ្នឹងយើងមក practice ហើយនៅពេលដែលគេសួរគេហើយយើងសុំ take note សំណួរទាំងអស់ដែលយើងបានសួរហើយខាងអ្នកឆ្លើយក៏យើង take note ហើយគេនិយាយទៅយើង take note ទៅវិញទៅមកហើយពីព្រោះពេលគេចាប់សួរដល់វគ្គក្រុមយើងម្ដងដែល role play ទៅជាអ្នកធ្វើជា marketing team វិញជាងដូរគ្នា2ដងណាប៉ុន្តែសូមបញ្ជាក់ម្ដងទៀត6ក្រុមខ្ញុំនឹងបែងចែកសម្រាប់អ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នា6បែងចែកជា2ទៀតហើយ2មកខាងធ្វើជា marketing មកខាងធ្វើជា client Okay all clear
Got it
Okay, got it.
Okay, but before we go into that exercise, Uj and I will do like a quick role play to show you how you would go about it. Yeah. So yeah, so maybe like pay attention to the things like on what we say, what we do. Like, so he's going to be the consultant, I'm going to be the client. So maybe just pay attention to that, to the interaction and the sort of questions that he's asking and how the conversation is going. Yeah. So then at the end, after we do the role play for you, we expect to have feedback from you guys in terms of what are some things that you noticed, what are some things that stood out for you, what are some things that maybe you didn't quite understand. So just pay attention to the way the role play will go.
All right, thank you.
Okay, cool. Uj, whenever you are ready.
Alrighty.
1, 2, 3 action.
Ring, ring, ring.
Are we doing ring, 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 or are we doing where so I mean like
yeah, we'll do a Zoom. We'll do a Zoom.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so let's go. So hi Yoni, thanks so much first of all for taking the time to meet with me today. It'd be just to give you kind of a quick idea of what this call is going to go like. I'll be spending maybe about 30 or 40 minutes if you have the time to spare, and we'll be looking at discovering some more kind of information to help us build this campaign. Before we get into that, I took some time to look at your website. Super interesting. Really like what you guys are doing at Data.U. It's like a really kind of inspiring journey that you guys are on. So, you know, before we get started, maybe you can tell me a bit about, in fact, wait, let me pause, guys. I did a really big mistake here.
Yeah.
I want you guys to point out 5 points. Anyone can point out what my mistake was. Can anyone point out what my mistake was?
Small talk.
Yeah, you keep talking alone. Not just any response from Yoni. Yeah, she keeps quiet and listening to you all the time. So
good. That's one. What else?
You did not introduce yourself.
Yeah, another good one. What else?
I think you forget make small talk with her. Just go straight.
Forget the chit chat.
Good. I want to test you guys and make sure you're all listening and taking notes.
Guys, this is what he does all the time.
Let's go again. Let's go again. Okay, so ring, ring, ring. Hi, Yoni. Thanks so much for taking the time to meet with me today. How are you? How's your day going?
Hi, Uj, no problem. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really look forward to this discovery session. I am good. How are you? How's your day going?
Doing great. Lunchtime is here. We just had a birthday in the office, so we got a slice of cake to keep us company. So no, the day is going very, very well. Very excited to have this call with you and kind of learn more about you, learn more about Data.U, your journey so far. And so yeah, we're super excited. So let's get to it, I guess. So I spent some time looking at your website on datau.org. Super interesting. Really enjoy kind of reading about the journey you guys have been on and the mission you guys are trying to push across Cambodia. I wonder if you could just give me maybe just your perspective on what Data.U is about, why you guys started it, and kind of just more about your journey and your background.
Cool. So basically, as you probably would have seen, DataU is Cambodia's #1 academy for training on contemporary data skills, and we're also working on capacity development when it comes to the workforce space. So our main campus is here in Phnom Penh, and we newly opened a second campus in Siem Reap. But what we do is we train and deploy local Khmer into exciting jobs with some of the biggest organizations here in Cambodia. So we like to think of ourselves, and the impact that we're having is not just on the individual. So we're not just changing individual lives, but we're also changing the livelihoods of the country. And in time, our mission is to change the entire nation for the better. So we have our advanced data training program that takes applicants from all backgrounds, both technical and non-technical. And then we upskill them in some of the latest data specialism skills. And basically we ensure that these guys in 6 months are ready to be placed into roles, into data roles here in Cambodia.
Wow. And so do you help place the candidates in those jobs as well, or is it when they graduate they go off and kind of look for jobs afterwards? How does that work?
Yes, a great question. So we, what sets us apart, I guess, is the fact that we focus. So first of all, we don't only focus on technical, on technical areas like Excel, SQL, Python, and data visualization. We also focus on teaching soft skills. So teaching people how to tell a story of data, how to be confident, and how to change their mindset, and how to think like a data, like a scientist, if you want. And of course, communication skills, presentation skills, because our main aim here is to make sure that these guys develop transferable skills that can be applied to across multiple industries. So at the end of the 6 months, we also find them a job. So they are with us. We act as their recruitment agents as well. So we help place them into roles here in Cambodia. So, you know, we collect their data, we go and talk to different companies, we showcase their skills to different companies, we facilitate this relationship even before they are being placed into roles.
That's incredible. And so how long have you guys been actively doing the training for in Cambodia? So I know you've been around for about a year, but how long have you actively been running programs? And tell me more about kind of the students that you guys have trained.
Yeah, so we've been here for over a year and a half now. Like the whole story kind of started over 2 years ago. And to date, we have successfully placed 100% of our candidates. We are now on our 4th cohort, starting our 5th cohort soon. So it's been like a really interesting journey so far. And what's really, really cool is that we get to see people from diverse backgrounds who just come and train with us for 6 months. And then you just seeing that growth and seeing the change in not just the individual, but what it can do for their families and for the country. It's really, really exciting for us.
That's really cool. And so in terms of your kind of customers, would you say that your students are your customers? Would you say that the employers are your customers? Or who is your customer in this business, and who do you target?
Great question. Well, I would say it's both, right? Because if you think about it, we are that bridge of like edutech, and we also act as recruitment agents, right? So it's very important for us to find the right candidates, to train them, and at the end to be able to have good relationships with organizations and to be able to place them into those organizations.
Okay, and so tell me a bit about your students in terms of what makes a great student. Who is your ideal kind of student customer?
So we have our program is quite selective. So we, our applicants, or the applicants that are successful, they need to pass the technical quiz. So that's an SQL quiz. We would also like people to have English reading and comprehension skills. So they would pass that quiz. And then there's also personality and psychographic assessment. And then we end up with an in-person interview or like online interview to make sure that they are the right candidate for this program, because it's a very intense 6 months. And we just want to ensure that before they commit to this program, they understand how intense and how challenging this would be. So one of our goals going forward is that we would like to increase the number of candidates that we attract to the program, and of course, increase the quality of those applicants as well. So this is a big focus for us, especially this year, right? Because if you think about it, the more people we can train, the greater the impact we can have on the, not just the individual, but the country as a whole. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And so if we think about just trying to drill down a bit more into your kind of ideal student, or your ideal customer, can you think of any kind of interest that they might have, or any kind of ways that we might identify who would be a good candidate? So maybe education level, are these guys coming out of university? Are they coming out of K-12? Do they have any particular skills or university degrees that you find work better? Can you just kind of give me maybe just kind of help paint a better picture of who that ideal customer might be?
So we had so far we had a combination of like a mix of personas, right? So I think one of the things that I would really like to focus on is maybe creating different personas. And I don't know if this is something that your company can help with, but let me tell you, so what type of individuals we've seen so far. So first of all, we have people who come from a computer science background. So these have either graduated both bachelor and master's degree in computer science or IT related fields. We see a mix of people who have studied abroad and people who have studied here in Cambodia. And then we have like grade 12 as well, who would come in and study with us. We've also had students in their last year of university, and they fully committed to studying with us whilst finishing their degree. So for those guys, I have a lot of respect, because it's very challenging. Yeah, exactly. And funny enough, those were some of our most successful candidates through the program. And another interesting aspect that we've seen, and this is something that we find like we'd like to see how to explore this a little bit more, is that we get a number of applicants who don't have this skill, so they haven't studied computer science and stuff. But what happened is, especially we've had people who were former tour guides who then wanted to retrain as data specialists. And what we found with that is that they have like their soft skills are very, very good, and are exactly the sort of thing that we want to enhance here within the academy. And what's interesting as well is that if those guys are willing to commit to their learning, and they put the time and effort in, and before that quite a few of them have self-studied, they excel throughout our program. So that's another interesting aspect. So I guess it would be what I would love to explore this to understand our personas a little bit better.
So understanding personas, looking at the soft skills, and kind of uptraining people from different industries. That's really interesting. Okay, and so tell me a bit about how you are. I mean, are you doing any marketing at the moment? Have you done any marketing? And how are you attracting your students at the moment?
So at the moment, everything is done through Facebook ads. We have a chatbot that we use. So there's different steps in that chatbot, different journey, different customer journey points. what I would like actually to do is I would like to look at how we can improve that customer journey. That would be something that I would like to explore further. And I would just love to hear from your experience so far. What sort of things, do you have any suggestions right now, or do you need to maybe take a little bit of time to to understand better what we do, or what would be your first instinct when you hear all of this?
You know, it's a really great question. And so what we would normally do, what our process normally is we would run a discovery session like this. I've been making notes as you've been talking, so I've got some really great kind of content I can go back to my team with. What we'll then do is we'll again look at some of the goals and some of the kind of requirements you set in this conversation. We'll then come back to you with a proposal with some kind of things that we can do, but just touching on some of the points you've spoken about. Facebook, as you know, is a very powerful channel and is a really great way for us to target audiences very specifically. And so we would always start by building customer personas. And so we can certainly help you with that, and we can create some customer personas. We would share them with you to kind of get your view to make sure that they are accurate, and then we can start to build audiences and campaigns around these different persona groups for you. So yes, we would definitely help you with that. I'll take this information back to my team, and we'll come back to you with some more data. Let me just ask a quick question for some clarity then to wrap up. So you mentioned that one of your key goals is to get more students into the program. That Facebook is the primary channel you want to do this in. That you use chatbot and messenger, so you probably want to kind of drive traffic towards your messenger kind of channel. And so can you give me an idea of how many kind of messages you would expect or would like to see out as a result of a campaign that we put together for you?
So I would like, ideally, the number that we want to hit for this next cohort is 24 students per cohort. So based on our experience so far, but again, you guys are the experts, so you can tell us what is the best approach. It would be great to have anywhere between 50 to 100 messages per day. That would be amazing if we can achieve that. Because ideally we want to have really good, like, qualified leads, because as you can imagine, we're very, very busy here running this business. So this is where you guys come in. This is where you are the, you are the experts, and you can give us suggestions. Because we have the interview phase as well, I guess this is where we really qualify the leads. I would be very interested in having people sent over that are really good leads, you know what I mean? Not, okay, they really need to pass our assessments. And because if that doesn't happen, as you can imagine, the interview is a bit of a, becomes an activity. Yeah, exactly. Sure, yeah.
I understand. Okay, so just to kind of reaffirm then, so you said between 50 to 100 messages. Do you have any kind of budget in mind for what you want to be spending on this? Is it a daily budget? Is a kind of a campaign fixed budget? Can you give me some ideas?
Well, maybe we can, because we haven't worked with you guys before, so I'm not entirely sure on what you're capable of doing. As you can imagine, I get approached every single day by different experts, and everyone is an expert here in Cambodia. So I just want to understand how you guys are different to other companies. So maybe let's just stick to like a $350 budget to begin with. I don't know if that's something that you can use.
A fixed budget?
Yeah, a fixed budget for like maybe 2 weeks or something like that, just to see what happens during that time. Or maybe you let me know if you think that 2 weeks is not enough time to test it, and if you need a bit more time. Based on what you tell me on your proposal, I can see if I can stretch the budget out a little bit, but things are a little bit tight at the moment. So yeah, I'm being conservative with that. Yeah.
Okay, I totally understand. Okay, and so I think, guys, what we'll do now is I'll press pause on this role play, because I think we've covered a number of things in this session. You would normally want to spend, as I said, about an hour talking to your client, getting to know them, you probably spend more time on their vision and their mission. And so one thing to know is that people love to talk about themselves, right? And the things that they are passionate about, right? And so if you're talking to a company owner, whether it's a store owner or whether it's a brand like DataU, they've spent a lot of their energy on this business, right? So they want to talk about that business. So giving them the chance to talk more is a really powerful way of making you seem more interesting, which is really weird, right? And so you talk less and let the other person talk more, but by the end of the conversation, they walk away thinking you are really interesting or you are really smart, which is a really strange thing that the human mind does. It's a strange kind of psychological phenomenon, which I'm sure Yoni can tell you more about. But it's really useful to let them talk more. So we covered many things in that short kind of role play. I'd like some of you guys to now kind of shout out some of the key things and bits of information you think we were able to capture from that role play. So how about you start kind of shouting out some bits of information that you learned through that role play, so that I can make sure who was listening and who was paying attention. So who wants to start with some information that you captured while listening to that role play that Yoni and I just went through?
Maybe we start with a warm-up questions already before. What did you guys think of that? Like how was it?
For me,
yeah,
it was perfect, and I did capture some of the interesting information that I captured in that conversation. So about the chit chat. So it's more like you try to get yourself into the client side first, trying to get to know them more and more, and try to test them and try to get along with them first before engaging them to the business part. Or from the other side is in short, try to make friends with your client before making a business move.
Yes,
that's what I learned.
Yeah, that's very, very important, especially when it's the first time that you meet someone as well, because obviously, you can't ask all the questions, but and then the more you get to know that person, then the next time, maybe they will tell you, oh, I'm taking my kid to I don't know, on a holiday. So then when you meet them the next time, you can ask, oh, how was your holiday? Did you have a good time? And so on. Yeah. So it's kind of like we're taking an interest in people, right? It's as Uj was saying earlier as well, humans have this need to be able to talk about themselves. Yeah. And we like when other people ask questions about us because it makes us look like we're interested in someone else, right? So that's very important for people, like for relationship building.
And I just want to check if anybody noticed some of the things I was doing to show Yoni that I was listening and paying attention. So does anybody have any ideas or can kind of talk about anything you may have noticed that I was doing to make Yoni feel like she was being listened to? Does anybody have any ideas?
Yeah, you're give us signs of acknowledging what Yoni is giving you the information.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is a really powerful trick that you can use in any conversation. So not just a client, but again, if you're talking to a girl or a boy at a bar, or if you're talking to a new person or a new business colleague or whatever it is, repeating a few words that they said back to them helps them know at a psychological, a subconscious level that you were paying attention. So as they are talking, pick out a few words, and after they are finished talking, repeat those back to them. Also nodding, like like this is again another way of encouraging them to understand that you are paying attention. So pick out keywords, repeat those keywords back in summary before you move on to the next point. And again, maintain eye contact, Don't look distracted. And so, if you notice, I was staring at the screen the whole time. The same thing is true if you're in person. Keep good eye contact. Don't stare at a person because that's just creepy. But maintaining good eye contact. Don't play with your phone. Don't look around the room because that can be seen as being rude or not paying attention. Okay, cool. And so, does anybody else have anything else they noticed that I picked out, or any kind of questions they kind of noticed I was asking in that conversation?
I would see it's a very engaging conversations or interview, and well, it's a good start which was actually showing an interest of that particular client's company, because that will send a message to the client or the customer that you're actually been study about the company that you're about to work for. For example, that Uj has mentioned about data use, some activities is really interesting and very helpful for the the Cambodia data science educations and stuff. So so that's one of the thing I noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this kind of way of doing research is really useful before you do your discovery call. And so you may find some clients that you work with do not have a website. So Data.U and the conversation that Yoni and I had, for example, is more an example of a sophisticated client, is what we would call them. So this is a more advanced client who already does marketing, who already understands Facebook. Many of your clients may not have a website, may not have used Facebook before, right? And so it may be difficult for you to do research to fully understand them as a specific client. But we can still do research to understand the kind of business they are, right? And so if it's, for example, a retailer, or if it is a live seller, for example, right? And so a live seller has approached you and they want to do, they want to get more traffic onto their pages or more traffic into their kind of messenger or to their live show. You might not have information about that specific live seller, but you can do research about live selling, right? And so you can find out about some of the things that live sellers do, so that when you're having a conversation, you can mention some of these things. So I noticed from some research I was doing that live sellers typically do this, this, and this. Is that something that you do in your business? If so, tell me more. If not, why not? And so you can start to do research around the business. You can look at their competitors. So if they haven't got a website, do their competitors have websites? Can you learn information about their industry from their competitors' website? Because again, you can say that in your meeting, I noticed from company X, who it looks to be doing a similar thing to you, that they do X, Y, and Z. And so again, it's a really useful way to kind of do that research, or if the research isn't possible on the company, to do research around the company and show them that you are paying attention. Does this make sense? Does anybody have any questions about that, or about research, or about any of the things we discussed so far? It is really raining here.
Yeah, I just noticed this. So.
Anybody have any questions?
No question for me.
Anyone else who wants to add anything based on the role play?
No.
Chona,
so,
do you want to? I think Chona wanted to say something.
Yes, please.
Okay. I cannot hear you, Bong. I think your mic is not working really clear.
Hello.
Yeah.
I just want to say no.
Okay, cool.
So I think I just want to point out a few things. And so I'll just run through a few things which we did pick out in that call. And so if you noticed, I asked questions about what their goals were. So DataU's goals were to get more students. We asked them about, tell me more about your students. So who is your ideal? So first of all, are students your customers? Are the employers your customers? So we asked them, who are your customers? And so understanding who the customers are for a client is very important. And asking them to tell you more information about those customers is very important. So I asked Yoni to tell me more about the students. What makes an ideal student? You know, are they university graduates? You know, what age are they? Are there any gender specifications? And so we can start to ask more information about the students, which is their customers. So get more information about the customers. I then, if you notice, ask for even more information. You know, can you think of any interests or any backgrounds that these customers have? So in the case of DataU, I asked if they were graduates, or I asked if they were a certain age. These are pieces of information we will use later on to build our Facebook audience, right? So Facebook audiences allow us to be very specific about the people that we target. We can target based on age, based on gender. You know, are your students only based in Phnom Penh, or do you go across the whole of Cambodia? So we can use locations to limit the audience and therefore get more targeted. And so audience targeting is a big part of how you build successful campaigns. And we look at that as later parts of module 5 as well. So getting as much information about your client is really important, but understanding their audience is probably some of the most important information you will get, because the better we can target the audience, the more chance there is of success, right? So if we are showing our advert to more relevant people, then more relevant people will click our ad, and therefore there'll be a higher chance of a conversion and reaching our goals. And so talking about goals, again, this is something I was very specific on with Yoni. I asked her how, so first of all, I clarified that she wanted more students, and that was her goal. She agreed, so I asked for clarification on the goal. I then asked for clarification on how many students she was expecting. So how many customers does she want? How many leads is what the word she used, did she want from this campaign? And she told me 50 to 100. Then I asked whether she had a budget in mind, and if that budget was a daily budget or if it was a project budget. And she told us that her budget was around $350 total, right? And so these are very important questions that we are capturing to help us build more information and really start to plan our campaign using the information that we need. So there was lots and lots and lots of information that we buried in that, or that came out from that call. And so you'll notice from your notes that one thing we always suggest is to record these sessions, right? And so if it's on Zoom, as we are doing here, this session is being recorded. So let your client know at the start of the call, hey, Yoni, I'm just gonna be recording this session so that I can make sure I capture all the information and don't miss anything out, and I can review it with my team afterwards if need be. If it's in person, then maybe use your phone audio recorder and say, hey, Yoni, I'm just gonna record this session. I hope you don't mind. It's just so I can make sure I capture all the information and I don't miss anything out, and I can refer to it later if I need to. So again, remember to kind of mention that you'll be recording the session and then record those sessions so that you have that information to refer back to and listen again and make sure you capture all the information you need. Yeah? Okay, cool. Yoni, is there anything else you want to discuss, or should we break into groups and have some practice and fun?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that just one thing to point out on the audience, if you guys noticed, Uj asked me who is your like audience, who is your customer, and to that I talked about students, but I also talked about companies. Yeah. So if we were to run like the campaign to run, so Uj can come back to me with a proposal that would be about 2 campaigns, right? One for customers, for companies, and one for students. Yeah. So I think that this is very important to not mix your audiences when you're creating a campaign. Yeah. So in this case, if I was to say I want students and I also want companies, then Uj would, like the consultant or the company, would come to me with 2 different proposals. Can anyone tell me why? Like that we would need 2 different ads?
I think as far as I understand, it's more like if it is a companies, it would target differently than the student, because the student, in terms of age-wise, budgeting, yeah, I think that would be, because company people are holding company. If you targeting the age, so maybe the age is on a different category, more or something.
Yeah, so we would purely because we would have different messages to those 2 audiences. Yeah, so students would have a different message and companies would have a different message. So that's why we would need to do that. And as you said as well, like we would target different groups of people, and that of course we would look at like different ages and so on. But yeah, so it's very important. Sorry.
I was going to say, and can anybody kind of say what impact that would have on personas and persona generation? So Yoni mentioned creating personas. We've just talked about audiences in terms of students and companies. So can anybody tell me how that information would impact how we would approach creating a persona?
What is really the persona, if you can? Personal information, or?
Oh wait, we haven't got to personas yet, have we? Ignore that question. It's a later chapter. We'll come back to that one.
All right, cool.
We'll come back to that. But just to bear in mind, I'll give you a quick kind of summary of what persona is. A persona is it's an example of who the customer would be, right? And so you would make up a persona which represents the ideal customer, right? And we'll get into that, I think, actually in chapter 5, if I remember. Yeah. So chapter 5 is target audience. And so we'll end up looking at personas in much more detail in chapter 5. But just bear in mind that as you're asking the client who their customer is or who their customers are, make note of every different kind of customer that they have, right? So in this case, a student is one kind of customer, a employer is a different kind of customer, and then we can kind of get more into detail afterwards.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, so bear in mind this role play is designed to give you guys an opportunity to experiment, to have some fun. Some of you will end up giggling, I'm sure, but like use this as an opportunity to learn, to ask each other questions, and then to share your ideas with each other in the break. We'll come back during our Q&A session, and then we'll have a kind of a group-wide discussion on how the role plays went and share any learnings and information that we had during those role play sessions.
If I can suggest, if we're going to do, so 2 people, they're one team, they are the client, and then other two people are the consultant, and then maybe we have 2 other people who are the audience, and they will assess and they will point out to you guys what you could have done better, what you did really well, and so on, because otherwise it can be really tricky to understand if someone else is not assessing you on that. So maybe it would be good to have like 6 per room if we can. So we do two, yeah, 5 or 6 people per room. So then, or sorry, I'm just trying 23. Yeah, so then probably we would need something like what?
I said if we did 6 rooms, 20
We
people,
have
that'd be
only
difficult.
3 or some room with 4.
We could
Yeah,
do
maybe 4 rooms.
Yeah, 4 rooms. I give
Hmm.
you one. 2 of them can be with 6, and 1 of them
Yeah.
can be with.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do 4 room then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
we need to divide into three party. Like one is for consultants as a marketer, and another, the second one is a client. So they will ask you questions, and the third party is the audience that you have observed all the all the marketer. Yeah.
Yeah, so the observers who give feedback at the end and say, oh, you should have done this, you could have done this, and so on. Yeah, so all constructive criticism.
Okay.
Okay, is that
Cool.
clear for everyone?
Yep. Thank you
All right.
for that.
Okay, let me break you into 4 rooms.
All right. Have fun. Good luck.
Have fun, guys. See you
Okay.
later. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Thanks.
Do you want to pause the recording, May, for this one and then?
Engaging. Yeah, it was quite interesting as well because we actually did swap like two, 3 different topics. Yeah. And we take turn like one after the other, who asking who's the audiences. So yeah, a few different topics. One is like banking, and then the other one is how to increase more leads and client for the Anchor Eye view in SIMRIP.
Nice. Nice. Awesome. May, do you have everybody in the room now?
Almost.
Almost. Let me check. I think
Yeah, may pull me out. I cannot stay there.
I have
You're
to.
special, Vesna.
I have to.
It's because you're too special.
I think that we all here. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, we all here.
24.
Awesome. Okay, so I was just asking Bunsak, does anybody else have any thoughts or feedback on the role play? Anything you guys found interesting? Anything you found difficult? Let me hear some of your thoughts.
Okay, so okay, let me next with
Yes, please.
Yeah, actually, when we are reading the lesson, okay, it's fine for us, but the truth, when we go to implement the role play, we found that a lot of things need to learn, because we made a lot of mistakes. For example, first, we are not very well prepared our question. That is the first. And the thing, we are not well managed our consultant group, that who is keep asking and who is to be make recording or note the conversation. So yeah, and also we think that we are not very well to keep the communication in the proper way. So yeah, so it make like it's not, I can say it's not very interactive conversation, something like that. Yeah, and we miss a lot of things, such as like before we go to meet the client, we didn't learn about the client company very well. That is the first thing. And we didn't aware the client, who is the client, like who is he in the company, like a manager or some rank or level, or a decision maker, something like that. We don't know who is our client. So that is a problem.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And also we have find some missing as well, like we aware that we have to prepare ourselves after the finish the conversation. We have to aware will we have another, I mean, competitor company who is stand outside as well. So we have to make sure that we can take this client seriously action, because otherwise we will lose the client to other competitor company. For example, if we are one of the digital marketing agency, something like that. So,
very true.
Yeah, so that's what we have learned a lot from our first play role. Actually, my group just first time only play role, so it's not yet turn. Just the first only. So that's why we found a lot of things that we need to learn to be prepared in advance, and for sure we will make it better for the next role play in my my group. Yeah, so that's all I want to share. Thank you.
So there was some really, thank you, Vesna. There was some really valuable insights that you just shared in that feedback, and there was lots of insights. So I'll try to summarize some of those. I think the first thing, you're absolutely right. You know, the whole purpose of doing these role plays is because it is far better to make a mistake and learn in front of friends than it is to make those mistakes in front of clients. And so the reason and the value of role play is it lets you practice and it lets you learn in a safe environment that will not damage your chances of winning a client. So I want to jump to one of the last things you said, which was you know, about competitors. And so whenever you are having a conversation with a client, it's always useful to imagine that there are 6 other people waiting outside that client's office to pitch them the same project. Because if you always think that every project you are going to work on could be taken by somebody else, then just like you said, you will treat it much more seriously, you will pay much more attention, and you are much more likely then to win that client as opposed to losing them to these potential competitors that you mentioned. So I think, again, role playing, the purpose of it is very much to practice. The purpose is very much to learn in a safe environment. And so another kind of key thing you mentioned was preparation. And so preparation is very important. And one of the reasons why we have the kind of the documents and resources here is to help you build, and we talked about this yesterday, is to build that framework and that structure so that you have something to lean on and fall back on if you cannot remember the questions at that time. Right? And so having these list of questions open in front of you is a very useful thing to have. So as you're talking to your client, if you can't remember what you wanted to ask, or you want to just make sure you've covered everything, it's useful perhaps to either write these questions down or print them out in a list. And then you can start to cross some of these questions out as you answer them, or more realistically, as you're creating this Google form as part of the module, the Google form will be a very useful tool that you can use to capture this information as you are on the call. So you mentioned, Vesna, that your team didn't decide who was making notes or who was asking questions. I think a good practice is to assume that everybody should be making notes, right? And so you should not rely on one person to make notes and one person to ask questions. Even if you are the one asking questions, you should also get in the habit of making notes, because there are going to be times when you are the only person working as a freelancer or as a member of the marketing department talking to a client. And if you can practice to ask questions and make notes at the same time. It's going to be a very valuable skill that you can learn, not just for marketing, but in any kind of information capturing exercise. Being able to listen, process the information, and then make notes is a very useful skill to have. So again, everybody should be practicing how to ask questions, and everybody should be practicing how to make notes. That will be much more useful to everybody as you kind of graduate from this program and move forwards into hopefully very wonderful careers. So there were a number of things you discussed. You know, preparation is key. Using your Google form will be very helpful for you. Making sure that you get to know your customer. So, you know, that chit chat or the small talk, as we call it, is very important to break some of that ice and kind of get to know your customer and almost become their friend, because it helps them relax, but it will also help you relax as well. And so role play is great because the more you practice something, the easier it becomes. And when something is easier, you will feel more relaxed and you'll feel less tense and less stressed about it. So don't worry if your first role play wasn't everything you hoped it would. This is the purpose of role play. This is the purpose of practice. You can do it again and again and again. So feel free to come back into your groups, you know, even after this session or, you know, later on in the week if you want to, and you can practice again amongst yourselves, because practice makes better.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, my team is they role play actually. I can say very well for their first role play at least.
Amazing.
Yeah, but and also we have learned a lot from this first role play. And for my group role play, for example, I just choose one of the real situation in Siem Reap about the hotel business. So yeah, so that is our topic, role play, about volume of customer have been dropped down or lost volume of customer, and the hotel is need more focusing on advertising for local people, yeah, who still have some movement in Cambodia, that because our border is already closed. So what our market is, we focus on our local tourists, and actually our role is the customer looking for a professional company. So this is completely different that we found. Actually, we define two kind of the thing. First is the customer looking for the a professional company to have, and the other one is the company itself looking for the customer. So we define two.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. You're marketing yourselves. Very clever.
Yeah, we have two. So so also thank you very much for your about the attention habit, about while we ask questions, we should show the attention that we have, like take notes by ourselves as well. So that is very good recommendation. Thank you.
Perfect. I also added, just as a quick note to everybody, in the module 5 in chapter 2, underneath the exercise, I included a link to a YouTube video. It's a short video, but it's got some extra tips and advice on how to run a successful session. So by all means, when you have some time, watch that video. It's got some more tips to be very useful in everything from the small talk to asking questions to really engaging your audience. So I've added that in the chapter for you. So please, when you have some time, watch that video also.
Sorry, everyone. I just add up one more question in
Please.
About the project pricing or project fee. That is very hot question that still around our mind. That we don't have any experience about this framework, this job. So actually, we always have many questions about how much that we should charge For example, when the customer want us to run the campaign for their company in some period, so actually we don't know how much we should charge. And for example, we can have like a strong conversation. For example, if the customer, oh, I have only 150 for this. So what we gonna do, because we don't know how much we should charge and what we have charged, how much we should tip for our benefit or fee, and how much we should spend on the ad or something like that. That is the very hot question for our team.
It's a really great, it's a really great question, and I've intentionally not added any information about that just yet, and the reason is because it's a very hard question. And so when it comes to marketing and digital marketing and pricing, you should be very conscious and very deliberate to separate the ad spend from your fees, right? And so how much you're going to spend on ad spend, you can be very fixed about that. You can say, we're going to spend $10 a day or $100 for the whole campaign or whatever that is. You can be very fixed about that amount. When it comes to your services and your fees, this is very much more a personal question you should ask yourself about what value you put on your time, right? And so there's the old saying which says time is money, right? And so your time is valuable. But there's an addition to that statement, which not a lot of people know, which says time is only money if you can get somebody else to pay you more than it costs you, right? And so time is money, but if you're not doing anything and you're sitting on your sofa drinking a Coca-Cola all day long, then your time isn't worth anything, right? Because it's costing you that Coca-Cola. But if your time is very busy and you're working many jobs and doing other things which are paying you money, then if somebody wants some of your time, they need to pay you more than those other jobs and those other activities are going to pay you, right? So your time and your cost is usually a very personal question, but there's something you can all do to help give you a better idea of what you might want to charge. And so you can do this again. Google is your friend, right? And so you can start to do some independent research, and maybe, in fact, all of you should do this research and compare your answers so you get a bigger set of data that you can work with. But if you go onto Google, for example, and search for digital marketing Cambodia costs, right? Or digital marketing freelancer Cambodia. And you can start to do some research on Google to find some information about what other people are charging that will start to give you some ideas. And then another thing you can do, which is a little bit cheeky, but very, very valuable, is you can find a list of other digital marketers, existing digital marketers, and you can pretend to be a client. And you can get some information from them about what they would charge you to do a project, right? And so once you have this information, you can then start to build your own pricing based on what you feel comfortable with. So for example, a large company, let's take, so we have a digital marketing agency called Dom. And the prices that Dom would charge are going to be far higher than the price that you as a freelancer would charge. And the reason for that is because Dom has got many staff members It's got a big office it has to pay for. It has to pay for the coffees and the Coca-Colas and everything else. And so its overheads are going to be much larger than yours. So it has to charge clients more money in order to make a good amount of profit. But if your overheads as an individual are lower, then again, you can adjust that in your prices. So there are many ways to find a good price. You can do some research. You can ask other marketers, either people you know, or you can pretend to be a client. Again, very cheeky, but it is a good way of getting that information. And then you can start to put some prices around what you want to do. One final way of doing it is thinking about how long you will spend on one client, right? So if you think about how many days or hours a client will take to deliver a project, then you can start to work out, okay, in a week, there are 5 working days, Monday to Friday, right? The average working hours on a week is 8 hours, right? So from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. with 1 hour for lunch, right? So if there are 8 hours in a day and there are 5 days in a working week, that is 40 hours per week. In a month, that is 160 working hours in a month. So what you, or 20 working days. And so what you can start to work out is how much money do I want to make each month? So you can determine that, let's say you want to earn $700 a month, let's say, right? And so if $700 is how much you want to earn a month, then you know that there are 20 working days in a month. So 700 divided by 20 means that you have to earn at least $35 for 1 day's work. If you earn $35 a day, that will give you $700 a month. And you can divide that again by the number of hours in a day. So if we divide 35 by 8, that gives us $4.38 an hour. So you can start to work out, okay, if I want to make $700, then I know that I have to either charge this much per day, or you could say, if a client is going to take me, let's say, 4 days per client, right? So if each project is going to take me 4 days, 4 full days, then that means in order for me to, so if there is 4 days, let's say 5 days, just to make the maths easier, right? So if a project is going to take me 1 week, 5 days, that's the time to have the session, to create the kind of the graphics and the videos, to launch the ad, and then to monitor it. If it's going to take me 5 days to do that work, then $700 divided by, so there are 5 days in a week, and there are 4 weeks in a month. So that means if it's going to be 5 days for one project, then I can only do 4 projects in 1 month. Do you understand the maths, right? So 5 days in 1 week, there are 4 weeks in 1 month. And so if I want to do $700 at the end of the month, I can only do 4 projects in 1 month, because 1 month has 4 weeks and there are 5 days. That means each project, I have to make $175 just for my services, right? So those 5 days for that one project for that client, you can say it's going to cost you $175 for my time plus the ad spend. That ad spend could be $100, it could be $200, it could be $500, it could be $10 a day. That's separate from your cost as a marketer. And so sometimes it is useful to calculate backwards from what you want to earn and how long you think a project will take. Does this make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, does anybody have any thoughts or any questions or any ideas about using a system like that to determine how much they should charge?
A very good question to start with, Mr. Visna. It's like you make Ud like sweating, explaining.
I was pulling out my calculator.
But indeed, yeah, deciding how much we should charge the client, it could be a challenging part, which required us to perhaps doing a bit of market survey so that you're not charging over or lower than your competitor. But yeah, many ways to get that. Then and I understand that Uj might not be able to share us what they do charge as well. So I mean, if they can, great, but if not, no problem, and we can work around.
Sure, I will find out if I can. If I can, I will. But I think, again, this goes back to the point we spoke about preparation. So just like we prepare our questions, if we prepare what our rates are, then we can create, before we even walk into the meeting, you can create what is called a rate card. So you can say, for 1 hour of my time, this is how much it will cost. So if it is a very small project, you want me to go in and set up your business manager account or set up your ad account for you, I will charge you 2 hours of my time at this rate. If you want a medium project, which might take a few days, this is what my day rate is. This is how much I charge for each day of my time. And then if it's a slightly larger project that might take weeks or months, you can say, and this is what my monthly rate is, right? And so you can start to create these costs, these prepared costs before you go in and meet with your client, because again, preparation allows you to go in and not look like you are making the price up there and then. Because if you start to guess and maybe, then the client will think it's the start of a negotiation and they will start to negotiate your price down. But if you come in and say, here are my prices, this is my day rate, this is my kind of hourly rate, and this is my monthly rate, then they can say, oh, okay, these are the proper rates that this person charges. And so it's useful to, again, prepare and have those calculations done. And often it is based on how much you as a person want to earn each month and how much time you're going to spend working on various projects and various clients.
Got it. Thanks.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments or thoughts on pricing or anything else indeed that we have covered so far?
From my group, the discovery session, it's actually started quite rough for the fact that we were not too prepared, and we admitted that to be able to sort of like get as much as information we can receive from the client, best way is to make sure we actually well prepared from our end as the consultant or the interviewer, and yeah, and we just need to have to practice more because going straight to interview a client, it's not really the best wise idea to do that. And also we found out that you know, we need to sort of like having more practical sessions within our own team, or if you're ever going to work with a company like that, then we need to really need to have a skill set before we going for an interview. Like Bong Vietnam and have many points already, which is really useful for that. And yeah, and we were curious, like because there chapter 1 and 2 is about, you know, once again, the discovery session, and then the chapter 5 here, or chapter 4 that we have is to create the form, right? So we wanted to know, like, so the form, I actually also stated in the Q&A section, but also can ask now, like, is the form is sending to the client before we going to interview them, or we had a discovery section with them and then we send the form for like questionnaire form?
That's a good question. Good question. So you can think of the form more as a tool for yourselves, right? And so if you imagine you were sitting in front of a client, you might have your laptop open, and on your laptop, you might have that form open. So as you are asking questions, you can write the answers in the form. And so it's a data capture tool for you to have to make sure that you are asking all the right questions. So if by the end of the session, there are gaps and empty spaces in your form, you know that you forgot to ask those questions, right? And so this is a tool that you would use during the session. And so we are creating that form in later chapters, but the role play now is more just to give you an introduction to what it is like to ask these questions in the real world, right? And so, you know, as we go further into this module, we will give you. So Yoni and I did a role play, but what we've done is we've also created a document. I think it's about 4 pages, which has got pretty much the same information that Yoni and I would have discussed in a proper role play in that document. So we will use that document as a kind of a replacement for a discovery session in terms of the content. You will then use the form that you create and that information document to pull out the necessary information and create your Google form, and therefore create the information you need to build your campaigns. So that form is designed to make your life easier so that you do not forget to ask important questions when you are doing your discovery session. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. So it's one of our tools when we're doing the discovery section with the client.
Exactly. And then in a later module, you'll get onto personas. And so there'll be another tool we have created for you, which will help you capture and create personas, which is the definition of a customer or a part of the audience. But again, these are tools which you will be able to use many times over as you work in the digital marketing field.
Got it. So obviously the form should never send to the client to fill, right? We interviewers fill on their behalf.
Yes, exactly. Because you shouldn't expect your client to do work for you. You should be making their life easier, not making their life harder by giving them homework.
It's true. Correct. Okay. Clear. Thank you very much.
No problem. Does anybody else have a question or a comment they would like to make?
Thank you so much, Uj. So according to the questions from module 5, I saw Bong Chunne, he asking you 2 questions from the chapter 4. The first question is, can you please explain more about lead generations?
Yes, absolutely. So let's start, I suppose, by explaining what a lead is. And so if you think about a business, businesses typically sell to customers. And so customers are people who have bought a product or a service, or who have paid that company for something. And so once you have paid the company, once you have made a purchase, you are now a customer. But before you pay the company, before you make a purchase, you are not yet a customer, you are a potential customer, right? And so in order to get potential customers, we do marketing. And when we attract somebody into our buyer's cycle, that person comes in as a lead. And so a lead is somebody who could become a customer. It is not guaranteed that a lead will become a customer, but if we do our job right as marketers, as part of that buyer's cycle, that lead could then convert into a customer and make us some money, or rather make our clients some money. And so getting more leads is then a very central part and a very common task of what you as a marketer will be asked to do. So help me get more customers. Using Vesna's example, that hotel needs more local clients, right? More local guests. And so those local guests, the people who are clicking on your ads in Siem Reap, those are leads. They become customers once they have booked a room in that hotel. And so generating leads, there are many ways of doing this, but in the Facebook ads world, in the digital marketing world, it all starts with somebody clicking on your ad. And so in order for you to get more leads, it is you want to get more people clicking on your ad. There are many ways of doing this, and we've covered them throughout previous chapters. We'll cover them more throughout these chapters, but they basically break down into a few fundamental blocks. So to get more clicks on your ad, which will generate more leads in your marketing campaign, we have to make sure that more people are attracted to our ad, that more people take the time to stop, to view our ad, and are interested enough to want to click on that ad, or click on our CTA, which is our call to action button. And so to do that, there are a few things we can do. We can, for example, use really great engaging imagery. We can use really great engaging video. We can make sure that our copy is attractive and engaging, and we'll cover how to create really engaging copy later in this module. But there are many things you can do to the way your ad looks and the way your ad operates in order to get more people to click on your ad. Because the more clicks you get, the more leads you will get. How we convert those leads is then part of our buyer's journey and our campaign setup, right? And so we will then start to do more activities to engage those leads. But to get a lead essentially means getting more people to click on your ad, because Facebook will record those people as potential leads in your system, who can then be retargeted.
Thank you so much, Uj. So it means that in terms of digital marketing, if we give example on the Facebook page, it means that if we can generate more like people engage in our ad, it means that it is a lead generator. Is that correct, Uj?
Yes, absolutely. And so just one more point I will make is Facebook, when people click on your ad, Facebook will store that information, but you will not have access to the names of the people who clicked on your ad, right? And so that's information that Facebook keeps very secret. It will let you use that information to retarget people, but you will not be able to give the names or email addresses or telephone numbers of those people to your client. So if you want to create more leads for your client, it is very important for you to be able to capture that information from the people who are clicking on your ad. So there are a number of ways that you can capture this information. One way is you could make that ad go to a website. So when somebody clicks on the ad, it takes them to your... I'm just going to mute once that. There you go. It's okay, you're muted now, bro. And so if you click on an ad, that ad can then take you to a website. On that website, you can then capture the information that your client needs. So for example, they could have a form that captures their name, maybe their email address, maybe their telephone number, or what other information that the client needs. So being able to capture that information outside of Facebook is very, very valuable. Another way is to drive the audience from the advert into Facebook Messenger. And so in Facebook Messenger, you can, for example, have an auto respond message which says, hey Bong, please leave your telephone number, your name, and your and whatever other information you want. And so you can create a message which says, please leave this information. And then your users can start to leave that information and start a conversation. There are more advanced things you can do, like build chat bots, which engage with your audience automatically, but that is not covered in this program. If anybody is interested in chat bots, I will happily find some links that I can share with you to do some independent research. But when it comes to generating leads, if you want the actual lead information, it is always advisable to capture that data outside of Facebook, because Facebook will not give you the name or the email address or the telephone number, etc., of that lead. So capture that information outside of Facebook.
Okay, yep. Thank you so much for your explanation.
Thank
so
you.
the follow-up question, it would be how to determine potential clients?
Great question. So Vesna, why don't you tell me how you guys were targeting potential customers? Because you discussed that in your group session. Is that correct? You were looking at potential customers and how to market to them. Can you tell us a bit more about what you were doing there? And then I will give you some ideas and suggestions as well.
Okay, I would like to nominate that question. Which question to Bong Chunna? Hello. Hello, Bong. Are you here?
Hello.
Yeah, I could not hear you, Bong. Can you speak? Yeah.
For determine customer, actually, this question I'm not sure, but for me, I think first we have to understand who like our product and what our product will reach to. I mean, who will be the potential customer, and that's it.
Okay. Yes, very good. And so kind of one thing you could do is you could essentially run a client discovery session with yourself, right? And so, you could ask yourself, who are my customers? Tell me more about my customers. What do they look like? Where do they hang out? What are their characteristics? And so you could start to have a session with yourself to discover some of this information. Bong Lesna, I think you said in your group you were doing something similar. So you were role playing on how to find potential customers for your services. Could you share with us some of the things that you were doing in your role play as a group?
I'm not get that well.
Okay, so I think if I understood correctly when you were speaking, you said you were doing a role play, one as the marketing agency talking to the hotel, but also you did a role play where you were looking for customers for the marketing agency. Is that correct? So tell us more about that,
Yeah,
because that is exactly
that's correct. You know, actually, it's just an example. When I and my group is start role play, I choose that the company looking for the solution or looking for the professional company who can figure out or can help our problem. So it that's mean that but honestly, I'm not telling them that why I know them or the way I contact to them. I mean, I get how I get their information and contact them to discuss about my company problem need to fix or to figure out. So maybe yeah, I know by advertising or something like that, or from Facebook, or from friend recommendation, or yeah, it can be any kind or any platform that but I choose their company because I thought that okay, this company is a big one, so I can trust, and that's why I make appointment with them to discuss about our partnership, to let them know about our problem, and let them resolve or give the solution or any advice what we should do, and what I can get the result from their solution or consultant as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think it's, I'll go back to my earlier point about, if you think about yourselves, there's not much difference between you and your clients, right? In that you both have a product or a service to sell. And so when it comes to finding your own clients, well, Facebook is a really great platform, right? And so you could market yourselves on Facebook, which is where your clients are going to be as well, because they also want to market to Facebook's audience. So you could run a discovery session with yourself to understand what your services are, who you're targeting, why they would buy your product, and again, going through the buyer's cycle and understanding what the different stages are for your customers. So it's useful for you to do some research and some thinking about your own services and products. And then you can, using the information in module 5 and the later stages, you can think about creating ads for yourself, right? And so with these ads that you create, you can put a very small budget behind them to test them on Facebook and see whether the ads are performing well, whether you need to change them, whether you are getting the right kinds of people clicking on them. And if you do your discovery session well, you will be able to identify your audience. And in following modules, following chapters, we will look at customer personas. And so that means you'll be able to, in a very detailed way, understand who your customer is. And then in later chapters, we'll see how we use that information to create very targeted audiences in Facebook. So you can use all of the same tools that you would use for your clients for yourself. and it's a good way to practice while you are trying to get clients, if this makes sense.
Yeah, actually, you know, at the meantime, my group also rise up the very, I can say, sample like the Tayu. They create this champagne as well. So we
I love it.
that. Yeah. So from the beginning, the data you launch the first ad with videos around all market area, as I remember. That is the first campaign that data you launch. So all that process we also discuss with our team. That is very simple way that we learn from data you, that how they can get this project in hand, because they have the stuff. I mean, yeah, I can say very professional way to implement this project and can have it's a successfully from the beginning. So first is launch video, and the second create interest content, and yeah, so the fourth, yeah. So that is very clear, simple for us that we can learn from. So yeah, that what we learn.
Very clever. Very good. Yes, and that will help you in later parts of this program when we start to look at creating your first ads, because again, we'll be using that sample information from that role play that Yoni and I did to start building some experimental ads. And so you're already racing ahead, and it's good. It means you'll be hopefully doing very well in later parts of this chapter. So good, well done. I'm glad to hear that. May, were there any other questions in the Q&A? I can't hear you, May. Are you on mute? Yeah, you're muted.
Oh my God. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, well, for the question that I asked you, it is all the Q&As that I got for today's sessions. And Moment, do you have any question? I saw you raise your hand at the moment. No?
No, I'm just saying you're not
Okay.
on mute.
Okay. Okay, so by the way, I have a question to ask you before we end the session. So I would like to follow up for the room 1, not the room for the play role, but normal sessions that we have in this morning. Room 1, which chapter are you on so far? Hello, room 1.
I forgot which room I'm in.
So many rooms.
Room 1, you mean?
The in the module.
In the module,
Yeah.
we have. For me, I have done. I have read through chapter 4, but the other they are doing some testing of the Google form.
Okay.
Just send our link to each other and try to fill out.
Nice.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I was in the group 1 as well this morning, but at afternoon I changed the group.
Okay. No, not in the afternoon, but in the normal, like we call like at the early stage we do only 3 rooms that break out to sell like the independent study. So the reason why I just want to follow up your chapter before you do a play role. Okay, so how about room 2? I think room 2, Bong Reksa, Bong Van Hai, Bong Visna, you are in room 2.
So I'm not in room 1.
Not in room 1.
I'm room 2.
Yeah, you are in room 2.
I forgot already. I said Tom is with me.
Okay.
Tom, are you room 1 or room 2, Tom?
Mr. Tom,
We are room 1.
We
We are in room 1 or room 2. Actually, I'm with Tom.
We should get you all badges.
Yeah, okay. No worry. We call like
too many room. So
because like we do the breakout room for practice, so I do understand that. But no worry, I have note all, you know, like your name, which room are you in? So trust me. So I just want to know.
I was in chapter
Room
5.
1, chapter 4. Yes, chapter 4.
Okay,
Yes.
chapter 4. And
So
room
I
1, Bong Bonsa is chapter 5, right?
Chapter 5.
Okay. How about room 3? Room 3, the member inside the room 3, Bong Chan Hoa, Chune, Manirat, yeah, Bong Jane, Siu Hua. So which chapter are you on?
We finished the chapter 4.
Okay, chapter 4 as well. Okay, just want to get more idea about what stage are you in, so I can plan for next Monday for you.
Yeah.
Okay, really
Most of us finished chapter 4 because we did the exercise and the forms and stuff, and getting into
great.
chapter 5. Yeah.
You guys racing ahead. I love it.
Yeah, we feel that we have a lot of things to do actually. Maybe in next week, yeah, it's will be Basak because yeah, we have planned.
What Basak is? What Basak is?
Flying hair.
Yeah, flying. I learned from the lesson in Basak.
You make us flying hair, you know.
Oh man.
Okay, no worry. So I think that all is good. We will on the same page together. If you have any challenges or you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me so I can help you out with that. And one more thing, I really appreciate Uj for in your Q&A session and being with us for a whole day.
Of course,
today.
it's my pleasure.
Okay, and also appreciate everyone for spending your time and put all effort from the morning until now. Really appreciate that. And last but not least, I would like to say goodbye and enjoy your weekend.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you.